I'm Daisy.
And I'm Terri.
And this is the Monday Mindset Podcast,
where we share things of interest to us and hopefully to you.
So let's get started with episode number 131. And today it is Terri's turn. We are back with Terri in the hot seat. Terri, what have you got for us today?
Well, Daisy, I listened to many podcasts this morning trying to choose something. And each one I listened to, I thought, I think I could make an episode. I think there's something there that I could share. And then this one popped up. They were just going through in a row. I wasn't even choosing them anymore. And I thought, this is it. And it's from an episode of the Mindvalley Podcast, which I really enjoy, with Vishen Lakhiani. The title of it is Take a Nap, 5 Amazing Benefits of Napping.
Oh, well, I shall learn what the amazing benefit of the nap I took this afternoon was.
There you go.
I have a feeling the problem with my naps is that I'm not sure they could be classified as naps. My naps tend to be sleeps.
Yeah, they're probably gone into the problematic zone. I don't know if it was because I was already interested in a nap at the time, but I think this is a topic people will enjoy listening to. Now, I think, quite honestly, this episode was a shortened part of a much longer piece because he does a lot of work with Mindvalley. And he teaches lucid dreaming. And I think you've mentioned him before.
I started the course, yes. I never finished it, but it was very interesting, I have to say, the part of the course I did do. Very interesting indeed. And he seems like a nice guy.
So he talked at first about the amazing thing to me is that basically you'll be better at anything you do after taking a nap. And I thought, all right, bring it. This sounds great.
Sounds good.
So then he said, let's define what taking a nap means.
This is where we get into troubled waters.
And he said that any short period of sleep outside of your monophasic sleep cycle. And for most of us, this monophasic means it's at night. And most of us sleep kind of once. It used to be that wasn't the case. People used to have 2 sleeps, but now we do monophasic. So it's generally 20 minutes to 60 minutes, but even 5 minutes can actually have a positive impact. So he started by saying, I'm going to go over all of the benefits, and then he just went into a lot of cool details. But the first benefit that he talked about is that you'll live longer if you take naps. So increased longevity is actually tied to people taking naps and that you'll be healthier in that longevity. So I thought, well, that sounds pretty good. That's a pretty good reason to affirm taking some naps. He then started to share some research that I found quite fascinating. There was a Harvard Medical School study that found a 37% decreased rate of heart disease among habitual nappers, although my notes say mappers. And he referred to habitual nappers as those who take 3 or more naps per week.
Okay.
And interestingly, in this study, that rate of decreased risk of heart disease increased to 68% for men.
Wow, that's a lot.
And one of the reasons I think he really highlighted this is he says, I talked with one of my medical doctor friends and they said basically there is no pill they can give you to help you achieve this.
Wow.
But here's the medication, taking naps. Again, further confirmation that I should start taking naps regularly. He then talked about a study in Switzerland with 3,000 random folks between the ages of 35 to 75. What they found was a direct correlation. Obviously, correlation can't claim causation, but a direct correlation of 42% decreased risk of heart disease, stroke, and heart attacks with just 1 nap per week.
Wow.
So I think after we finish recording, I'm going to go take a nap. Another study he talked about was from NASA. They were testing astronauts in training. They were testing, all the effects of anything on the body, and they tested their cognitive abilities and athletic abilities, everything. And that after just a 40-minute nap, they were 34% better at anything that they were researching. Their athletic ability improved 34%. Cognitive ability, all of these things improved significantly after just a 40-minute nap.
Like you say, in pretty well every field you can imagine, people are looking for ways to improve their performance, improve their productivity, improve, whatever it is, their health and well-being, their fitness, you name it. And it sounds like on average it has this, 25-30% at least boost. Like you say, people spend a lot of money and time and biohacking and all these things.
This costs you nothing. No negative side effects from medications or supplements. And interestingly, in these studies, improvements in cognition lasted for about 2 hours. So you might want to take a nap before going to your big exam. He talked a little bit about some people who struggle with napping, who talk about feeling what he described as sleep inertia when they would wake up, or even first thing in the morning when you get up, just this kind of grogginess when you first awake. And he said this can be caused by the timing of the nap or how you were doing or feeling going into the nap. But he said that the best way to resolve this sleep inertia, whether it's first thing in the morning when you first wake up, or if it's after a nap, is exposure to sunlight because of what it does to the turning off and on of signals from melatonin and things. So if you do tend to feel this kind of grogginess after a nap, best thing to do is to go outside. Now, this next piece of research that he talked about, I found really fascinating and described the effects on the amygdala. And you and I have talked numerous times about different roles of the amygdala, but basically the amygdala being the threat center in the center of our brain. And this research found that after a night of less than 4 hours of sleep, so a night when you get no sleep or very poor sleep, the amygdala is 60% more reactive. So this is why you're more grouchy, you're more easily angered, you're more easily anxious, upset, sad, anything.
Stressy,
60
on edge. Yeah,
60% more reactive.
I think most people know that. If they can tell by their behavior and how they feel if they slept badly. You really feel it, don't you?
But here's the trick. A 1 hour nap will reset the amygdala. So if you get a really crappy night's sleep or no sleep, my advice then, based on this, would be make sure you get an hour-long nap because you can reset that reactivity. Another study from the University of California was again looking at cognitive ability related to sleep. And they had some participants who got a full 8 hours sleep and they tested their cognitive ability. And then they had other participants who got only 4 hours of sleep. And their cognitive ability scores were reduced significantly from those who had gotten 8 hours of sleep. However, again, with a 60-minute nap, their marks were the same as if they had gotten 8 hours of sleep.
Wow.
So that nap could make up for, at least in this measure of cognitive ability. Now, as you mentioned at the beginning, Daisy, one of the most important points, and you'll notice he said 20 to 60 minutes. Almost all these examples have been either 40 minutes or 60-minute nap. The timing of the naps is really important. And he said that a nap should be under 90 minutes. Otherwise, you roll into deep sleep. And then
sleep
you
cycle, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you get into that inertia feeling. Interestingly, some studies have shown, especially in older people, like over the age of 70, if they're taking naps of 2 or more hours at a time, this is generally a sign of dementia. And at first they were trying to determine if it was causing the dementia, but instead they found it actually was just a sign of dementia.
Interesting.
One of the things he mentioned is that there's a lot of controversy or debate surrounding napping. You often will hear people say that it's not good to nap, even if you haven't slept the night before. Just stay awake until your normal bedtime.
Spoil your sleep. Won't be able to get to sleep.
That's right. They've actually found that that's not true. And he said in the past 10 years, there has been more neurobiological research on sleep than in the past 100 years. So we've learned a lot about this recently. And he again went into the fact that it will be disruptive to your sleep if it's not done properly. So again, 60 minutes or less. Obviously, he said 90 would be okay, but ideally 60 minutes or less. And then the other criteria is that you want to finish your nap at least 6 hours before your actual bedtime.
I had a feeling that was going to come into it, yeah.
So if you're taking a nap at 6 p.m. until 7, that's only good if your intended bedtime is 1 a.m., but you want at least 6 hours in between.
Yes, that dozing off in front of the TV at 9 o'clock or something that's not a good nap.
That's right. And it can disrupt your sleep because we have this kind of phenomenon that takes place in us, and we build sleep pressure, and it takes about 6 hours to build up. So if you think about it, oftentimes you're ready for a nap about 6 hours after you wake up because you've built up this sleep pressure. And so you need 6 hours after your nap to get back to that place so that it won't affect that night's sleep. So as I mentioned, he was talking about folks who can't nap. Some people say they can't fall asleep during the day or they just can't nap. And so he talked about non-sleep deep rest. And you and I have mentioned this before. Andrew Huberman talks about it quite a bit. But this is that deep relaxation before sleep feeling, that hypnagogic state when your brain is in alpha and theta mode. It's like hypnosis. And most of us would recognize it. It's that feeling like we're almost asleep, but yet not quite asleep.
Yes, I remember you talking about it in an episode before. Yeah.
So even just lying down with your eyes closed for 20 minutes can allow you this. The reason why this can be so helpful is something, again, a bit of a phenomenon that we experience called the parasympathetic drive. And basically, there's this kind of rechargeable battery in our brain. And every time you do something relaxing throughout the day, it charges up this battery. And this battery actually helps us go to sleep and stay asleep. So doing things throughout the day that are relaxing help us with our sleep, not interfere with our sleep. So doing this 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes of this non-sleep deep relaxation is charging up that battery and actually helps you fall asleep and helps you stay asleep longer. So easier to fall asleep and to stay asleep and get better sleep.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if that is something that really impacts the quality of your sleep. Because I think, we've all fallen asleep after a really stressful day where we're really tired. We're physically tired, we're mentally tired, we've been really stressed out and we just want to switch off and we want to go to sleep. But you don't get the same kind of restful quality of sleep that you would have if you'd have, as you were just describing, charged that battery. And that's what I was thinking as you were talking about that. I was thinking about the kind of sleep you get even when you're really tired. After a stressful day, you might get to sleep really easily and you might sleep all night, but what's the quality of that sleep like?
Absolutely.
It's a bit like poor old Rocket, if you remember, with his emotional stress bucket and having to have his tablets to actually get good sleep when he was asleep because of the restorative nature of it.
Absolutely.
So it's so important, isn't it? Sleep.
And then, of course, as you knew his name from the lucid dreaming, he did talk about that a little bit in this episode. And he basically described lucid dreaming as being awake while dreaming. So basically conscious within the unconscious. And that we can use this to treat anything that we would use hypnosis for. PTSD, phobias, building confidence. And he even talked about that this can be a way to improve athletic performance. And he actually took part in this study as a participant. He was practicing martial arts. And so they took 25 people practicing martial arts and assessed their abilities, and then had them do a period of lucid dreaming where they practiced their martial arts in their sleep. Obviously mentally practiced, not physically practiced. And then tested them again when they were awake. 81% of them had improved their performance due to this rehearsal during this lucid dreaming state. He was not one of those.
I can believe that. He was not one of those.
Yeah.
You would think as a practiced lucid dreamer, he would be A+ing that one.
I don't know when this was this might have been early on in his development.
Yeah, maybe.
But I just thought that was fascinating that, if you're practicing something that's really challenging for you, run it through, practice it in this almost sleep-like state. See if that helps.
Yes, well, you did an episode on that before, didn't you, about visualization, and that was talking about sports. I seem to remember I think it might have been baseball, the example, but they did a study with people who visualized it and could improve their performance without actually physically picking up a bat.
He then talked a little bit about the sleep stages versus that hypnagogic, then light sleep, then deep sleep, and then dream sleep. And uniquely, a nap, you go very quickly into dream sleep. So you're getting into that place more quickly. He then also talked about ancient use of lucid dreaming, and I don't remember the details on this, but I know he spent quite a bit of time in a Tibetan study. So he called this the nap of the sleeping tiger. And they would practice several periods of lucid dreaming each day for improved sleep at night. Because by the time they then went to bed, just as you kind of mentioned earlier, they weren't fatigued. And instead, they would go to sleep to get into this place of practicing their spiritual practice. So it was the kind of monks, making it a spiritual practice. But you didn't get that benefit if you went to bed so fatigued. So this is why they would, like I said, use several periods of lucid dreaming throughout the day. But really, I just was excited about this episode because I thought, how many of us would love to take a 20-minute or 30-minute nap several times a week, but have felt that's too lazy, it's going to cost too much time or something, versus seeing that it could actually have profound effects on our performance and our health and the quality of our sleep beyond.
Well, it's completely the norm in some countries. You think of a lot of the southern European countries like Spain and Italy. I remember reading an article not so long ago about people napping in Italy. It's quite the norm to see people napping all over the place. But in France, to a certain extent, certainly the long lunches were normal, and quite often people would incorporate a nap into that. But you think about Spain, where they have their siesta, it's like a 3-hour break. They take a long relaxed lunch and then have a bit of a snooze before they go back to work. So in a lot of places it really is the norm on a pretty much a daily basis. I thought of my grandmother. She used to do a similar thing. She used to take a 60-minute nap. I think it was sort of between the hours of 2 and 3 or something in the afternoon. She would set her alarm clock and she would have her nap every day. So yes, I can certainly see the benefits. Like I say, that the problem that I've always found, and I must admit, as you were talking, and when you were talking about this sleep inertia and the grogginess, when I've sometimes had a nap and my body has snapped out of it before that 60-minute mark, and you come out of it feeling refreshed, which is what you want from it, isn't it? That's the whole sort of, not the whole point of a nap, but it's one of the real benefits of having a nap, is getting that cognitive level back up, or as a refresher or whatever it is. But yes, certainly when I have those longer naps that aren't really naps, they're sleeps, like I said at the beginning, I do tend to quite often get at least a sleep cycle, and then it's really difficult to wake back up. And I quite often want it to be 2 sleep cycles or 3 sleep cycles. And yes, it's very difficult to sort of drag myself out of it. And I spent many, many years, decades almost, sort of self-medicating really with the kind of food I ate and then sleeping. And I really got into that habit of those afternoon, well, not naps, sleeps, too long periods of sleep. And then that would definitely roll on to then not being able to get to sleep until very, very late, which rolls on to the next day, and on and on and on, and had a very unhealthy sleep pattern. So yes, I can see how there's a really big difference and how there's that sort of dangerous territory if you have that tendency quite often, like I do, to want to sleep for a bit longer. And I'm that kind of person, when I get into that lovely sleepy state, I'm really reluctant to come back out of it. So I will get very angry with an alarm clock or something like that. I don't want to come back out of it. Probably a safer territory for me if I was going to set this up as a regular routine. And I wrote down early when you were talking about it, does nap equal meditation really? If you're wanting to stop a nap being asleep, and the way you were describing it with this sort of hypnagogic state and these different things, it sounded like there was so much overlap with meditation, and that you were sort of getting into that meditative state. The other thing I wrote down later when you were saying that you got quickly into that sort of dreamlike state, it made me think of daydreaming, and that quite often is refreshing if you sort of take some time to have a bit of a daydream. That is almost sort of lucid dreaming, isn't it, where you just let your mind wander, and it does go into that sort of dream state, but you're not fully lying down, running into the dangerous territory of going to sleep for a few hours. So I think maybe there are ways into it that could be a bit safer if you're like me. And the other thing, I guess, maybe is that it's a potential indicator that my sleep quality hasn't been very good. Because what is it, that test, isn't it? I can't remember who I watched doing it. It might have been Michael Mosley or something, where he holds a spoon over a metal tray or something just over the edge of the bed, and you lie down on the bed and you sort of see how long it takes you to get to sleep, if you can get to sleep. And the idea is when you get to sleep, your hand relaxes and you drop that metal spoon and it wakes you up. And there's something about, if you fall asleep within 10 minutes during the day, then you're needing more sleep. Your sleep hasn't been of a quality that's good enough. So I wonder if some of those days I just, in the afternoon, I feel like I need a sleep. That's what it was like today. And I did. I slept for, it was certainly a sleep cycle. It was probably 2. But I'm already feeling, I can tell that I'm not going to struggle to get to sleep tonight. So I wonder if sometimes there are those days when you need a sleep. Mm-hmm. And yes, differentiating between feeling tired, needing more sleep, or just needing a nap. But I guess if you want that refresher, like you said, if you haven't had enough sleep, that you kind of got to set an alarm clock to stop yourself going past the 60 minutes.
Yeah. And my guess is also from what you said in the past, where you would have longer periods of time where that was a cycle, where you would take a longer sleep during the day and then stay up late at night. And then, that your whole system, your whole circadian system was so not getting adequate recharge and reset that, you needed several hours of sleep because your body was constantly not getting reset to where it needed to be. So you were always in that kind of compensatory place.
But I guess for people who are wondering, how could they fit it in? Because I should imagine the other thing that gets thrown up is I don't have time to take a nap. But maybe taking that like a sort of almost doing it like a mini siesta for people who don't have a 3-hour lunch break. Maybe they have an hour, maybe they only even have half an hour. But setting that time aside, like you mentioned at the beginning, even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to sort of go into a bit of a relaxing, closing your eyes, daydream state could be a really good refresh to head into the afternoon session of work.
Absolutely.
Part of your lunchtime routine.
I often do that. I purposely schedule a couple hours block in the afternoon so I can take the dogs out and run some errands if I need to or something. And oftentimes it's right near the end of that, and I know I'm going to be getting in a meeting soon. I thought, oh shoot, I really would like a nap. And I will set my alarm for 15 minutes. At first it feels like I got shortchanged because it was so short, but it does actually recharge me. I think it gives me that energy to get into that next meeting. So even something short like that for me can make a big difference. Once I hit that feeling of, I'm just low energy or something's off, just even a 15-minute one can really help me.
It's a bit of a pick-me-up.
Yeah.
And if you were supremely organized, I'm just thinking about a potential lunchtime routine. If you were supremely organized, you would, especially if it was a nice day, you would maybe go outside on a park bench and eat your lunch, then close your eyes and have a 10-minute nap, and then open your eyes and get some light, and back you go. You've had a full-on reset on all levels.
That sounds so beautiful.
It does, doesn't it?
I think you need to live in just the right place so that the weather is just right for that, and the social milieu.
But to be honest, it just needs to not be raining. I was kind of picturing people doing, I can imagine people doing that in places like Central Park and all sorts of places. I mean, yes, obviously there are limits to where that's going to work, but you get my meaning. Even if you've done it in the cafeteria and then you just step outside for a few minutes and do a few quick stretches and back you go.
And for so many people that I work with who are now working from home, go out on the back porch or the patio.
Even just go throw the window open and look outside. Look at the clouds for a couple of minutes. It's doable.
Well, Daisy, I know it's nighttime for you, but it is 1:37 in the afternoon.
I'm gonna go and
I think it's a wonderful time. I think I may take a nap because I do still have 6 hours before bedtime. So this seems like a great day to start doing my own personal research on applying this strategy. And I think I might remember to apply this strategy more than some of the other ones we've talked about. Because try as I might, I never remember to stand on one foot. But I think I could remember to take a nap.
Good idea. Well, enjoy your nap and have a very wonderful week.
Take good care, everybody. Bye, Daisy.